Hello and welcome to Chaos to Clarity, the podcast that's your compass to navigate the exciting world of service-based businesses. If you're a determined woman in your current business adventure, striving to conquer the chaos and build your empire, then you are in the right place. I'm your host, Maggie, your go-to business bestie and chaos navigator. I've spent nearly 2 decades in the service-based industry, building a photography business, a yoga studio, and now a thriving coaching practice. I've cracked the code to consistent income without all the chaos and noise. So get ready to increase your business growth, connect with your ideal clients, and find ease in both business and in life. It's time to turn your frustrations into inspiration and your chaos into clarity. So go ahead and grab your coffee, a pen and paper, and let's dive into the journey of building your dream service-based business together. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Chaos to Clarity podcast. My name is Maggie. I'm your host and your Chaos to Clarity business mentor. I am so excited to be back. And today I want to talk about where I've been, what I've learned, and what's next for myself, for the podcast, for just my business in general. So it's definitely been a minute since I have recorded a podcast, and I also unintentionally took a 2-month social media break. And so I wanted to talk about what this entailed, why I took the break, and just how I'm coming back from that break. And, I want to share about some of the lessons. I want to share about coming back. But I think more importantly, I do want to talk about what happened as I realized that I needed and wanted this break. Because if you're anything like me, I'm a manifesting generator and I love to do all of the things, right? I love to be active. I love to just be doing. I love to be involved. And that can definitely have its pros and cons for sure. Now, I didn't know I needed a break until I was in the break and I felt relief. Now, when I think back on all the things that were happening, I definitely thought about taking a break much longer before I actually took the break. So I just want to remind you that if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I just need a break, take the break. But here are the things, and I'm going to give you some questions to write down, to journal about, to contemplate, to think about, and just really kind of see, how are you resonating with some of these questions, okay? So make sure you have a pen and paper handy, and if you're driving, of course, bookmark this for later, come back to it, and, just give some of these questions a think, really. And like I said, I didn't know I needed the break until I was in the break, until I realized, oh crap, I haven't posted on social media in 2 weeks, and I felt relief. And that was one of the things that really clued me into desiring this break. So the first question that I really contemplated for myself was, why did I want this break? And what was I actually doing to move the needle forward? So I kind of thought about and just talked about those things with, some of my close friends, with my coach, right? With my mentors, the people who I keep close to me. And, I have always had a lot of people say to me, don't you think you're doing too much? And it wasn't until one of my mentors said, you can do whatever you want. You're a manifesting generator. Of course you want to do a lot of things, but what is your energy saying? What is your strategies? What is your body saying about all the things you're doing? Are you doing all the things because they genuinely light you up? If so, then you'll have infinite amounts of energy. If you're doing things that aren't necessarily lighting you up and you're doing them like, just because, then yeah, those are going to take a toll. And I mean, don't get me wrong. At the end of the day, everything is going to cost your energy. And it's just really going to depend on like, are you really excited for the thing or are you not? Right? So when I was in the first couple of weeks of the break, I realized like, okay, I need a new strategy in order to do all the things that I am wanting to do. So I got real with myself and I wrote down and I thought about, here are all the things that I'm doing. Here are the things that don't make sense for me to do right now. Here are the things that I want to set down, that I want to walk away from, because they're just not lighting me up. It doesn't check for me to do these things. And I just want to say that, it's okay if you start doing something and you realize this actually isn't really working for me. The next thing that I thought about, aside from like, what do I actually want to do? Why do I feel like I need this break? The next thing I thought about was, how and when do I want to return? And I don't want to put a ton of pressure on a specific date, but like, what would make it easy for me to show up in a really productive to me way? And something that rang clear for me was my podcast, was, having this space and being able to utilize this podcast in many different ways, right? In order to create reels, I can create content, I can create static posts, I can do so much from this. And I don't necessarily love to write. Okay. I love to speak, but I don't necessarily love to write. So give me a few prompts. I can talk for days, which is great because now there's so many ways for you to really amplify your words without spreading yourself thin. So I knew that when I returned, I wanted it to be with the podcast. And as you know, if you go back and listen to previous episodes here on the Chaos to Clarity podcast, you'll know that I did a lot of interviews. I have a lot of people who are always wanting to be on the podcast. That is so amazing. And I wanted to keep that, but I also wanted a space that I could talk about whatever I want, whenever I want, without feeling pressure. And I was starting to feel pressure from my podcast, and I wasn't talking about the things that I really wanted to be talking, that I was feeling kind of cornered, is what the feeling was. And when I thought about taking the interviews out of the Chaos to Clarity podcast and creating a different platform, a different podcast to host those conversations, that felt so much lighter and it felt so much more doable. It felt so much more just amplified and light and exciting. And like right now, I have a long list of people who want to be interviewed. So what happened was, as some of you may know, I started co-hosting summits. So when I was talking to my summit co-host, we realized that we are sitting on a literal gold mine of people who want to speak on a podcast. And what better way than to have an interview series on a separate podcast that really fits together with what we're talking about in the summit, what I'm talking about here, but more importantly, like that podcast, and it's called the Millionaire Mindset and Strategy Secrets podcast. I'm going to link it below, so you can definitely go and check it out. What that is more of a conversation around multiple different things across a bunch of different, industries and people who are helping people. And not that the Chaos to Clarity podcast wasn't doing that, but I just felt like the interviews on the Chaos to Clarity podcast had served their purpose. That chapter of the podcast was over, and now I was craving something that was just me. And in realizing that, I started thinking about, okay, how do I want to feel about this? Like, what is, really the contemplation of like, how am I going to do this? What do I want to do? What is going to make this feel the easiest? What is going to make it the most time savvy for me, right? Because at the end of the day, right now in this current season of life, both kids are home with me for summer break. So I really wanted to maximize my working hours and not feel like I was putting pressure on myself and not feel like I was constantly thinking these things of like, oh my gosh, you're not doing the work you said you do. Look, you didn't post again, right? All of that negative self-talk that was building up. And that, to go back to the reason for the break, that was part of the break. I was so exhausted. I was constantly being mean to myself. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, no, you know what? I need to stop. I need to stop and lay everything out on the table, figure out exactly what is checking, exactly what is not, put everything that I don't want to do off to the side or just scrap it all together, because I had a lot of half-finished projects, and that was something that was really taking up a lot of mental load for me, was all of the half-finished things, right? So I had to understand, what do I want to let go of? Because I knew that I would continue telling myself these stories and I would continue saying these nasty thoughts to myself, right? Without even really realizing that that's what I was doing. And I just want to say it's okay to pause. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to reformulate the things that you're doing. And it's okay to spend time in contemplation. But the big thing here, because I love a contemplation session. I love going down the rabbit hole. I love learning, right? I'm a one line. We get stuck in contemplation. So I knew at the end of the day, I knew I needed to give myself some time off. I wasn't sure what that looked like or how long I would want, or even if I would want to come back. And that was a kind of scary thought, right? Very similar to when I closed the yoga studio, when I was like, okay, I'm done with this chapter. Like, was this the end of my mentoring and advising chapter? There's a lot of things that kind of went into play here. And at the end of the day, no, I'm not done, right? I just needed to reorganize what I was doing in a way that made more sense for me. So I'm happy to say I'm excited to be back. I have renewed energy and I am so excited to reconnect with everyone. So again, you're going to see some changes here. This podcast is moving into a solo podcast, and all of my future interviews, right, with myself, with my co-host Steph, for the foreseeable future are going to move to the Millionaire Mindset and Strategy Secrets podcast. And that's something you're going to see tagged below. So make sure you go and subscribe to that, and you're going to be able to really get the best of both worlds this way. So my biggest takeaway from this whole thing was I didn't ghost myself like I have in the past, right? I didn't just stop because I was scared. I stopped with intention. I paused with the intention of figuring out what I actually wanted to do. And I followed my design, right? I leaned into my human design. I started digging into some of my gates, and especially my sun gate and my personality sun, which is gate 29, and my design earth, which is gate 14. So, and I'm going to get into a little bit of what that is in just a minute, but I really leaned into that because it's part of my incarnation cross. And over the last probably 8 months, I've been in this deep contemplation of my cross. Now, my 40th birthday is coming up in August. So I'm at really kind of this crossroads in life, and it's not like a bad thing. It's just one of those things that's like, I feel like there's a lot of, it must be this midlife crisis thing, right? So I am on the brink of my second Saturn return, right? There's just so many things, astrologically speaking, that are happening, that it gave me another reason to pause and go, okay, I have gone like balls to the wall for the past 5 years. I don't want to be working like that anymore. I don't want that kind of hustle. And I've talked a lot about not hustling, but here I was kind of hustling in the background. So like, I wanted to be in integrity. And looking into my incarnation cross, or the first two, your personality sun and earth, your design sun and earth, looking into those 4 gates gave me a lot of insight into what I was doing. Now, my personality sun gate is gate 29, and that is the yes gate. And when I looked into that gate, when I looked into my incarnation cross, I realized that yeah, I was saying yes to everything. And that's part of like the learning of those gates, is like you're more prone to saying yes to everything just because it sounds like fun, and or you're a people pleaser. And but the things that aren't for you are going to exhaust you. And that's what I was feeling. I was feeling exhausted by things that I was like, but I was just excited about this. And now I'm not. And that's okay. Right? So what I did, I stopped, I paused, right? I needed to reconnect to me and what I wanted to be devoted to. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of the process of this. So to start out, right, like I said, I took a pause, and it was probably 3 months ago that I took a pause, that I thought, oh my gosh, okay, I have to stop. There's just a lot of things on my plate. I knew that, our babysitter was going to be out for the summer with some personal things, and I needed to like shit or get off the pot, really. And it literally started with my eye twitching for it twitched for like 3 months straight, like every day, all day, it was twitching, and it was like getting worse. And, in the back of my mind, I thought, like, I can't keep pushing like this. I can't keep, like, pulling what I'm doing. It's too much, right? And then, I went to a masterclass, and in that masterclass, the woman leading it said, well, you're a manifesting generator. You can do a lot of things, but are they aligned? And I thought, oh, something's not aligned. More than one something is not aligned. And, like I said, I started looking into my human design more, and I had been kind of contemplating my conscious sun, right? And looking into like, what does that mean? And knowing that I'm a 1/4 manifesting generator, right? Like with gate 29 as my sun gate, which is like 70% of me. So if you are looking at your human design chart, you're going to look at that first sun gate on the right-hand side. That gate is going to be like 70%, 60 to 70% of your being. That is like, if you're going to follow a gate, that's the one to start with, right? So for me, gate 29 is all about commitment, and it's all about committing like I am all in. And when you're not in your design, when you're in the quote unquote shadow of that, you tend to half-ass things. And I was half-assing so much stuff, just out of that people-pleasing mentality that I had slipped back into without even realizing it. So, like, it's nobody's fault. It's just one of those things that happens. I'm human, right? It's very easy to keep telling yourself, oh no, this is in alignment, right? And let your brain do all the driving instead of like sitting in your body and like really tuning in and listening. Is this a yes? Is this a no? Right? One of my good friends, she will ask me, we talk once a month, and we will often ask each other like, oh, if we're feeling wavy, right? Or wavering on something, we'll often ask each other, well, does it check? Right? And does it check means like muscle testing, or, you can do the snap test. There's so many ways, right? Especially if you're not super in tune with how your body responds. So what does that all mean, right? I'm a 1/4 manifesting generator. I am a sacral Manny-gen, right? That is my strategy. So for me, I quote unquote should have some of those like kind of like butterflies in the stomach type feelings. Now, as I've looked deeper into my design, I have realized that when you look at my chart, you can look at just your design, just your personality, right? And I did that because I had seen a post on I think Instagram, talking about how you might be a secret reflector. And, even if you're a Mani-Gen, you might still have a lot of reflector tendencies. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. Now, I separated my design and my personality. And, my like outward, right? My personality side is a reflector. I have no defined gates, or channels rather. I have defined gates, but there's none that are connecting. They're all connected on the design side. So on the like internal side, which I thought was cool, but also that gave me pause. And that gave me pause because I have been able to like connect with my sacral, but sometimes it takes longer. And that was always really curious to me. And I just kept thinking like, oh, I'm just going to plow through. Of course it's a yes. Of course it's a yes. But actually it turned out to be a no, right? So when I would start making these commitments, I realized, no, I actually do need a little bit of time to like think this through and make sure. And it's not even really like thinking with my brain. It's more of like going inside, looking at my calendar, just crossing off and checking some of those boxes that are like, okay, yeah, I do actually have time for this project. It does really sound exciting to me, and I am really all in. So when we think about, like how we make decisions, and, like a lot of people will say, oh, you're Mani-Gen, you make decisions super fast, but that's not actually always the truth, especially when you think about most people are emotional, right? Not even really sacral. So you have to ride the wave of things. So all of that to say, I got really curious, and that is actually baked into my design, curiosity, right? With the one line. So I got really curious about how I was working, and I asked ChatGPT to give me an ideal daily layout of like an ideal day and an ideal week for me, knowing that I have with the kids home 4 to 5 hours to do work, right? To work. And I gave it like, here are the things that I want to do. Here are the projects I currently have, the hours that I'm currently working, right? The things that I want to add to my plate. Tell me how to set up my week. And that was really where it started shining through to say, okay, there's going to be some things that I have to let go of, and or I have to hire help to help me through these. So I knew in all of this, I wanted to prioritize a shorter workday because I get the best work done between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. Those are my best, like putting in work, recording this kind of stuff, cutting these things, like scheduling social media, creating like all of that behind the scenes stuff. Those are the best working hours for me. And how could I prioritize that? How could I make it go quicker? How can I, in true Mani-Gen form, skip steps so that I can have more time to do the things that I actually want to be doing? Because right now it's not a priority for me to hire a VA, right? Because I want to make sure I have my shit in line before I have somebody else doing it for me. Okay. So this, again, it led me, some of my core values, if you didn't know, I know I've talked about it in other episodes, but, curiosity, fun, prosperity, those are things that are part of my core values, things that I value the most, right? And now prosperity for me, it doesn't necessarily mean doing more. It just really means doing things that I love. And that, honest to God, gives me so much energy, right? It's like how a kid can sit and play and play and play and play and play for hours because it's aligned for them, right? So for me, in my literal chart, right? Prosperity is in my chart. It is gate 14, right? That's my design earth, right? So my earth gate on my design side, right? Like the underneath part of me, the inner part of me, is that, like prosperity doesn't always mean I'm doing more. It really means for me being aligned. And going to my sun gate, which is gate 29, that also is part of that gate is being aligned. I call it the half-ass gate because You're either all in or it's half-assed. And if you're doing too much, it's always half-assed. And I was doing too much. And I knew it. And I knew I needed to back off, right? And I knew that there were things that would come in, like financially, for me when I started backing off, when I started doing less and having more fun, finding simplicity, prosperity, security, joy. I knew all of that would click into place as soon as I backed off and got rid of the things that I didn't want to do, that I said yes to out of more commitment, really, and really being afraid to say no is what it really came down to. So something that I immediately noticed when I quieted the noise, right? When I stopped posting on social media, when I quite literally just kind of stopped checking my Facebook, my Instagram, and like not worrying about it, I just noticed the quiet. And I noticed my thoughts starting to come back. Now, I have an open head and ajna in my human design chart, those top two triangles. One is completely open. The head, the top one, is completely open for me. And my ajna has like one or two gates in it. Now, if you look at your chart and your head and or ajna are open or undefined, so usually undefined means you might have a couple of hanging gates. Open, there's nothing attached, right? And I've joked before by saying it's all or nothing up there, right? It's all or nothing. And, you know, the thing is that when it is all or nothing like that, when it is all or nothing, sometimes it's really noisy up there. And sometimes it's really noisy because there's so many thoughts from other people. And I don't mean that in a bad or negative way, but it's something that people who have an open head and ajna struggle with a lot. So if you have an open head and ajna, just know that it's okay to pause. It's okay to unfollow people. It's okay to stop interacting with people who are giving you their voice unintentionally, right? Because it's very easy to pick up, right? It's very easy to bring in. It's very easy to think, well, of course, this person is going to be telling me the right things. They are further along in their journey. And this is something that in my mentoring and my coaching and my advising, something that I really encourage people to think about and to understand is, what are the voices within you actually saying? Are you doing too much? Right? And once I quieted the noise and I allowed myself to find stillness, my eyes stopped twitching. But also, I got really clear, and things that I was kind of hemming and hawing over for months that I was just letting distract me. Like, oh, do I want this or do I want that? What kind of freebie do I want? What kind of this? What kind of, I don't know what to do for my programs, blah, 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 blah. It all became clear. And it all became clear in a way that was like, oh, this is the obvious choice. Here's the obvious answer. And here's how I want to proceed, because this is just how things will just be so much better. Right? So it was really interesting about a couple, I'd say like 2 months ago. It was really interesting because I had, I lost my train of thought. Oh, so I had, not unfollowed on Facebook and on Instagram. You can click the three little dots in the upper right-hand corner of a person's post and hit snooze. That's what I did. I snoozed a bunch of people that were showing up consistently on my page, and it was just like overload on what they were talking about. And I don't really know why it was those specific people that I was like, you know what, I'm just going to snooze these people. And I'm just going to see what happens. And that was part of the noise, right? So I knew when that happened, that like instantly the noise quieted and I was like, oh, I don't have to actually listen to what they were saying. And it wasn't anything bad, right? Don't get me wrong. Like, it was nothing nefarious. It was nothing crazy. It was just one of those things that was like, this is not checking for me to take in this information anymore. And it was part of what I realized, things that I didn't want to tolerate, right? The energy, the strategy, the structure. And really it kind of came down to the people that I had snoozed for a while. Like, they were just a lot of energy for me. And like I said before, it's okay to pause. It's okay to unfollow, unfriend. And I wasn't necessarily ready to unfriend or like unfollow. Like, it didn't feel that drastic. It was more of like, let's be curious. Let's snooze a bunch of people who I'm seeing a lot of, and let's just see what happens. So I got curious. And part of my, gene keys, part of my incarnation cross, right? And we'll get a little bit into the gene keys in upcoming episodes, because I did a 1-month mastermind that was so good. It taught me so much about contemplation and like energy frequency for myself that I can't help but integrate that, because it's so important, because it gave me clues when these themes were starting to show up again and again and again, right? And now I've been able to test into the noise and understand just really like what I really want to be feeling and what I don't want to be feeling. And when we talk about this kind of stuff, this is getting into, the shadow, the gift, and the city and the gene keys. And being a human design person, right? Knowing that my gate 29, the shadow of that gate is half-heartedness, right? But still saying yes anyway. And that was something that's like, I want to say yes out of devotion, out of compromise, and not out of like, I don't want to compromise. I want to be like stepping into that, like, yes, I absolutely have time for these things. These are the things that I want in my life. So I really learned that I'm not meant to be everywhere. I'm meant to be literally exactly where my yes lives. And when I can trust that, I build offers, I create the content, and I come from a place where everything is expanding and I have the space for the things that I want, which is so cool. So as I started to see this happening in real time, and this is stuff that's been happening over the past couple of weeks, right? So it's not like I've taken the last 3 months, quote unquote, off. And like, when I say off, I don't mean like I've stopped working. That is far from the fact, because there's always work to do in your business. But it really gave me the pause to say, this thing that I started creating, I'm half-assing this, and it's only a half-baked thing, and I don't feel excited about it. Okay, I'm going to let it go. Or I'm just not going to work on it. I'm going to let it live. I'm going to park it in the parking lot, and I'm going to come back to it later. So now we're getting into the return portion, right? We're coming back. This is my first solo podcast, I think, since the beginning of the year. So how did I know it was right to come back? How did I know? And I can't say that it was like a definite, like, yes, it's right, or no, it's not right. It was more of like, I miss podcasting. And I miss putting these episodes out. I miss getting into the details. I miss talking about business. And I wanted to do it in a longer form content, right? And be able to utilize one big piece for many different things. And so again, I had ChatGPT help me plan out, here are topics, here are some, talking points, here's a way to create emails, social posts, all the things that I need to streamline my week, to streamline my offers, to maximize my time so that I can work with clients, so that I can have, a number of different things happening and still maintain that like 4 to 6 hour workday, right? That ideal amount of time to work so that I can play with my kids. I can do the things that I want to do and feel super fulfilled at the end of the day. So I knew it was right to come back. When I really started that, like, I really miss podcasting. I really miss talking. I really miss, like preparing for a podcast. I really miss this. And, like when I knew that, that really just showed me that this is how I'm meant to lead. I'm meant to lead to help you step out of the things that you're half-assing and really step into that devotion, that genuine longing, that genuine, like, oh, I'm so excited to open up my computer. I can't wait to see what's happening. I can't wait to create. I can't wait to sell. And that is what I started feeling over the past like 3 weeks. I can't wait to talk about my offers. I can't wait to talk to people who are interested in what I have going on. I can't wait to create podcasts so that I can reach more people. And something I just want to touch on here before I wrap up this episode. I set energetic boundaries for myself. I had them before, but I reset them again. And I set them in a way where, like I said, I have working hours. And there are times where I work outside of 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's after 1 p.m. when I'm recording this right now. But that flex, that ebb and flow really gives me the security that I need to know that, yep, I'm going to record this. I'm going to get all the things done, and then I'm going to push it out, and it's going to be scheduled. I'm not going to have to worry about it. I'm going to be able to sit back and make dinner tonight. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to read before I go to bed. And I'm not going to have this constant stream of thoughts about, oh my gosh, I didn't do that thing again, right? So I'm holding myself accountable in a way that energetically matches what I want. So this podcast is not here to be a content machine. It's here to transmit information, to teach you, to open doors. And that's really what you can expect from me moving forward, is that, this is going to be where I have longer form content, and you'll see bits and pieces of it on Instagram and on Facebook. And right now, right, we're going to move into what's next. So I have a bunch of things for you. So number one, I want to invite you to download my brand new freebie. It's a revamped freebie. So you'll definitely see nods to like different iterations of this in the past, but it's called the Magnetic Client Blueprint. And what it does is it walks you through the first few pieces of your human design and really sets you up to start to understand things that I've been talking about in this podcast here today. So I know a lot of people are, just out there trying to do their best. They're don't understand how to move forward. They think the more they work, the better it'll be. And I just want to say that's not necessarily it for you. So there are a number of ways that you can work with me, right? So you can go ahead and grab the freebie, the Magnetic Client Blueprint. That's going to walk you through a bunch of things. You're going to go through your type, your strategy, your profile, and part of your incarnation cross, right? And you're going to start to see some of these themes playing out for yourself. It's also going to help you learn how to contemplate and journal and just understand, how do you put this information that you're learning, how do you put it into your business? How do you apply it to your business? Because that is something that I have helped a lot of people do. Learn how to apply your energetic human design blueprint into your business so that it feels good, so that you don't feel like you're just constantly running a marathon every single day, right? So you've got the freebie. The link is below. And from there, I have one-on-one mentorship through the magnetic method. And there'll be a podcast coming out, I believe, next week, all about the magnetic method, just going into what it is, how it helps you work, and just a little bit of an overview of what it is. I also have the DM Mastery course, which is a human design aligned sales flow. That is getting the finishing touches, and I'm going to run a live version of that probably in September. So make sure you stick around because you're going to want to be part of that. I'm only going to run it live once in 2025. And what that really does, so in mentorship, one-on-one mentorship, I teach you how to utilize your DMs and utilize them as a lead generation machine without feeling salesy, without feeling like you're cold DMing everybody and their uncle begging for them to buy your thing, right? Because we don't do that in my house, right? We have conversations because conversations are the key to closing sales, right? Conversations create connections, connections create sales conversions. So part of the one-on-one mentorship is learning the DM mastery, also learning the 20 leads in 2 weeks sprint. So that is something else. You can actually opt into the sprint right now. I'm going to put the link below. It's email based. So it's 1 to 2 prompts per day over 2 weeks. You'll generate at least 20 new leads in that 2 weeks. And those leads are warm to hot leads who are ready to opt into your offers. The last time I ran that live, everyone who was in there connected with, I think everybody connected with at least 30, if not 40 leads. And this is not like go out and message 100 people a day. No. I teach you all of the things that I know about connection, and then we utilize your human design in that. So the last time I taught that, I had reflectors, I had projectors, I had generators, and I had Mani-Gens in there. So I had a little bit of everything in there, and everyone walked away with 30 new leads, at least 30 new leads, and everyone booked sales calls, and I'm pretty sure there were a number of people who also had sales out of that sprint. So it's so good. I turned it into an email course so that you can do it on your own, right? You don't have to wait for me to run that live. So those are the 3 ways right now for you to work with me. Well, 4 if you include the freebie, right? So download the freebie. Make sure you get into mentorship because that is going to be the best way for you to work with me. Because I really want to make sure that you are honing in on your skills and not getting lost in the sauce right now. So right now I have 3 openings for one-on-one mentorship for either 3 or 6 months. You can click the link below to schedule a chat with me, a free 30-minute chat, and we'll just go over everything that's involved in the mentorship, where you're at, where you want to be, and really get a feel for, is this the right time to move forward? And this is also something that I teach my clients, how to have connections like this, but more importantly, how to have the calls that are going to help you sign clients at a faster rate without feeling super pressured, right? So if you're craving a structure that really works with your design. So everything I do works with your human design, not mine. We work with yours because I am not you. I can give you pieces of what I do, but at the end of the day, you have to settle into your design, understand your energy. That's where we work from. That's where we build these different pieces of your business from so that you can really do what you want when you want and make the money you want, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're in business, you want to make money. So if you're tired of building based on pressure instead of presence, we need to talk. That is something that I help people do. And again, go ahead and grab my free magnetic client blueprint. The link is below. That is going to set you up for success for the next steps, for talking to me, for opting into the DM Mastery live course, for getting into the sprint, all of that, because it's going to set you up for your formula. You're going to start to see what you need to do in order to be aligned. So I am so excited to connect with you again. I'm so excited to talk more about what I did on my break, on the pause that I took, and really how we can work together and how what I'm doing is really going to amplify what you want to be doing. So I hope you have an amazing day. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, share, all the things. Remember, me. The Chaos Clarity Podcast is on YouTube now, so you'll get to see my beautiful face and all the good things. I hope you have such an amazing day, and I will talk to you all again so soon.